Good afternoon. If you ever got stuck in data space development, or if you just wonder how to integrate all of these different components of the blueprint into one single data space, or if you're just wondering what you need to address first, if you have these questions, you should definitely have a look at the co-creation method. My name is Jelte Bootsma. I'm working for TNO, and as TNO, I'm involved in the DCC. And today I will tell you a bit about why this co-creation method might be relevant for you. So let's dive into that, why the co-creation method is relevant to you. So the co-creation method, it's a comprehensive guide to the building blocks of the blueprint. It helps you, so the Data Space Initiative, to answer whatever you need to answer, when you need to answer it, or what choices you need to make, and in which order you need to make these choices in order to develop your data space. And depending, well, regardless of the maturity of your data space, this method, it can be applied because not every building block of the blueprint is needed at the same time. And this method, this co-creation method, really helps you to only use the necessary building blocks of the blueprint, depending on the maturity of your data space. And that puzzle on the right, it's already finished. But this co-creation method, it brings together different kind of aspects or assets of the DCC, such that it is easier to navigate through these different assets. And hopefully it also contributes to the faster development of data spaces. So let's now dive into what is the co-creation method and what is the co-creation method. So depending on the maturity scale of your data space, which you can see here on the left, which are the lifecycle stages, we have developed several development processes that a data space initiative can follow through. And these development, well, let's at least start on the left with these maturity stages, which are the lifecycle stages. And they range all the way up from exploratory all the way to scaling up. And where in the exploratory stage, you talk about who are the stakeholders that are involved, what is the business model, etc. And when talking about scaling up, you're really focusing on federation. And for each of these different kind of stages, ranging from exploratory to scaling up, we have developed some development processes. And these development processes you can follow through and walk through in order to develop your data space. So an example, it starts all the way with aligning your stakeholders on the data space scope, and what you need to, the stakeholders that you need to involve, and the goals that you want to achieve, all the way to establishing agreements about federation, or for example about your data space. And if you go through all of these different kind of processes, these processes also consist of different steps. And within these steps, we have defined different kind of questions. And these questions can be answered at any point of time that is relevant for your data space. And within these questions, to answer the questions, we have included some references to the building blocks where the answer can be found to these questions in order to really develop the data space and get the answer that is needed to develop your data space. And as you can see, currently we have only developed the development stages that are related to the first three lifecycle stages all the way to implementation. And in the next version of the blueprint version 3.0, we will also focus on operational data space processes. And these are more or less related to the lifecycle stages of operation and scaling up. So these are really the contents of the co-creation method. But also let's focus on what are the highlights that we have been developed within the version 2.0. Because last year we were also standing on the Data Spaces Symposium, and a lot has already been changed since then. So first of all, we have developed a new overview page and a new homepage for the co-creation method. And this is also in relationship with the DCC toolbox. The second thing that has been developed, and I already mentioned it, but each process that you need to walk through now contains with a flowchart diagram that really describes the steps that you need to take within this process all the way to come to the end results and develop your data space. So each process now contains a new flowchart diagram. Now I already mentioned this as well, but for each of these different steps that you can see here in the flowchart diagram, we have developed multiple questions and also what the potential outcome should be of that question. So this really makes it easy for a data space initiative to think about, okay, what are the questions that I need to answer and where can I find the output of the outcome, so the answer. And hopefully this really helps data space initiative to navigate through the building blocks, but also to have a starting point where they should start. And I think this already wraps it up indeed. And so I would like to invite everybody that looks this to have a look at the co-creation method. And if there are any questions, that you let me know.